Okay, so it's what I'm calling day 2, and after a real effort to be positive and cheerful and active yesterday, last night I couldn't sleep. I was really anxious, like I'm sure a lot of people are, having read about worst case scenarios. I sort of soothed my mind by reading The Mirror and the Light and remembering that in Tudor England and most other times in the past of human history and many places today, dying from infectious diseases has been pretty normal, and I guess we're lucky that this is unusual for us. I actually like that about historical fiction. It helps put things in perspective. And that made me think about something I researched and wrote about myself several years ago now. And I decided for today's video to do a little reading from one of my own books that was out several years ago, but you can still get it. And my publisher Breakwater has a sale on ebooks right now, so you could get it, I think, half price as an ebook. But it's set in St. John's in the fall of 1918, when my main character, Kit, is just trying to adjust to having her husband, Ben, home from the First World War, and the adjustment is not going terribly well. And they have gone out to dinner together at a restaurant, attempting to work things out. It turns out to be a good thing they chose this night to go out, for in the morning the news that has been threatening for a fortnight is finally announced. With the influenza epidemic spreading throughout the city, all theaters, restaurants, and other public gathering places are closed. Schools are closed as well, which means Kit is out of work and home all day. Makes no sense writing a note to Harrison now, Ben says. Who knows how long this damn flu will keep spreading? Harrison might not even be in the office. But sending your card can't do any harm. It will at least remind him of you. Stop nagging at me about it. Ben stalks from the room, slamming the door. Kit gets up to run after him, then sits back down. Now that they are virtually quarantined, the big house seems too small. Moments when things seem comfortable again are punctuated with sudden silences and angry outbursts. One day they have a screaming fight about Kit's decision to rearrange the parlor furniture, and they both retreat to separate corners of the house, exhausted. Later that day, a note comes in the mail from Alice Templeman, now Mrs. Penny, Kit's old friend from her student days at Spencer. Alice is the wife of a well-off businessman now. Her note says, Dearest, I'm driven mad. Surely we'll die of boredom long before the Spanish flu gets us. Our boys were winning battles at the front, and here we're at home as bored as anyone could be in a trench. I simply can't bear it a moment longer, and I'm spitting in the face of fate. I'm inviting a half-dozen couples to dinner Saturday night, and we'll socialize in spite of epidemics and war and all. Will you please come along and bring that dashing man of yours in uniform? I'm so bored. You can't imagine. Infectious. The word is used mostly these days in reference to the flu, but Kit is infected with Alice's spirit as soon as she lays down the note. All of it, the ennui, the frivolity, the desire to thumb her nose at destiny, to dress up in something pretty and go be out among people. She and Ben have seen almost no one but each other since he came home. Please let's go, she says to Ben after telling him about the party. It seems a foolish time to be throwing a party. You've risked death every day for 4 years and now you're afraid to go to a dinner party? So they do go to the party, and I'll skip ahead a little bit to when they're at the party and the hostess has declared there's to be no more talk of the war. Efforts are made to introduce other topics of conversation, but with the dictum that they cannot talk about the war, the conversation naturally comes back to the flu epidemic, which is even less cheerful than the war. The war at least showed signs of ending, while the epidemic is getting worse both here in St. John's and abroad. 4 new cases confirmed this week, says Violet Windsor, and Miss Dickinson has died. Isn't that tragic? After she was so brave nursing overseas to come back here and catch the flu and die of it? It's like something in a novel. You needn't sound like you relish it so, said Alice. She was friendly with Ethel Dickinson, who was a few years her elder and went to the Methodist College. The evening wears on, alternating between flu talk and war talk, neither of which does much to lift anyone's mood. People excuse themselves within an hour after dinner, and after the second couple leaves, Kit sees the mute appeal in Ben's eyes and nods. Was that so bad? She asks as they walk up Military Road. Yes, Ben said. It was as bad as I'd imagined, but not as bad as facing German artillery. Not quite. So they end the evening laughing together, and along with the day's headlines about armistice talks, Kit sees the entire day as a positive sign, a sign that things are getting better. It will not be easy, of course. With Ben's recovery, as with the war, there will be setbacks, but surely victory will come. The next day, he seems drained, as if the party has taken every ounce of energy. He's reluctant to get out of bed, and Kit encourages him to lie in and rest. When he gets up later in the day, he's still tired and withdrawn. Kit is so fixed on being positive and cheerful that it takes her till the following day to admit that there is more wrong with Ben than nerves or melancholy or shell shock. She's become accustomed to these things, so accustomed they blind her to the fact that he's running a fever. It's nothing, he insists. His eyes are glazed and he's shivering, although he is sitting up in his accustomed chair with a blanket over his shoulders, shivering, but his skin is hot to the touch. A touch of cold, I think. You mustn't worry. Mustn't worry. Ben, 50 people have died in St. John's, and I made you go out to a dinner party. A party. Why didn't you talk sense? Make me stay home. Kit, stop fretting. I've been sick before. I had a fever in the trenches one time. I was delirious, saw things that weren't there. I came through that. I'll come through whatever this is. Anyway, going back to that passage in That Forgetful Shore felt really timely this morning, and I guess I find some comfort in books, and I like to know about things like this that have happened in the past. Couple of recommendations if you want to know more about the Spanish flu almost exactly 100 years ago, particularly in this area of the world. Anne Budgell's book, We All Expected to Die, which I haven't read yet but have heard super highly recommended, and a National Film Board documentary called The Last Days of Okak, about a remote village in Labrador that was almost completely wiped out by the Spanish flu. If you don't find that kind of thing comforting, feel free to go with absolutely escapist reading and viewing as well. I totally understand that impulse. But for me, there's something sort of encouraging in realizing that we as people have been through these sorts of things so many times in the past, and even though they are awful and devastating, we have so many more resources to fight them today than people did in the past. And we also have this incredible resilience. We will get through this. Take care. Stay safe. Love you.